If Taiwan is to be unified by force, the People's Liberation Army will have four difficulties. Only by overcoming these can the island of Taiwan be completely liberated. What are the four difficulties? With the current strength of the People's Liberation Army, there is no problem in liberating Taiwan Island. How to avoid casualties is the focus of our consideration at this stage, and whether to fight or not is already within the scope of consideration. Although the island of Taiwan is small, there are platforms from the United States, Japan, and other countries behind it. How to avoid a tug of war like the Russian-Ukrainian war is an urgent problem for our army to solve. At present, there are mainly four tactical difficulties. The first is landing operations. The average width of the Taiwan Strait is more than 200 kilometers, the widest point is 370 kilometers, and the narrowest point is 130 kilometers. At the speed of the landing ships of the People's Liberation Army, it only takes 4 hours to cross the Taiwan Strait, but these 4 hours are very dangerous for the troops. Although the strength of Taiwan's navy is not good, the anti-ship missiles in their hands are equally harmful to our landing ships. They will attack us when our warships are crossing. The People's Liberation Army will also be attacked by artillery fire from the Taiwan Army when it lands. At this time, the ground troops are the weakest. Therefore, before the war, our army must not only gain air and sea control, but also destroy the coast defense line of the Taiwan Army to the greatest extent. Firepower. With the current strength of the People's Liberation Army, there is no need to send soldiers to attack fortifications. The first thing to do is to use long-range weapons such as rocket launchers and missiles to clean the ground. The main targets are Taiwan military ships, radar base stations, airports, barracks, transportation hubs, Taiwan military ammunition depots, and coastal fortifications. After these bombings were completed, our army began to dispatch. The place and time of landing are also important issues. Many people think that to attack Taiwan Island, they must first occupy the Penghu Islands or Kinmen Island. In fact, these two islands do not need to send soldiers to attack fortifications. They can be controlled by long-range artillery or drones, and the surrounding sea area and airspace can be blocked. The method of killing and not fighting can be used. If the Taiwan Army is smart, it will not invest too much troops on these islands, because it is easy to be made dumplings by our army, and support and supplies are very difficult. The best landing place for our army is in Pingtung County. Landing from here can lengthen Taiwan's supply line, and under the control of long-range firepower, it can suppress the Taiwanese troops in Tainan and Kaohsiung. Then there is the issue of street fighting. Many people thought that once our army landed on the island, the people of Taiwan would welcome Master Wan. Don't be so optimistic. Even if the people of Taiwan don't want to fight, their government will use war to kidnap people. The US government knows, as do the governments of Japan and Taiwan, that once we begin to rule Taiwan by military force, the island of Taiwan cannot be defended, but their purpose is not to help the Taiwan authorities defend the island, but to turn Taiwan into a meat grinder, watching compatriots on both sides of the strait fratricide each other. It's okay if you can't keep it, the important thing is to bleed mainland China. Taiwan's military is poorly trained, but the anti-tank missiles fired from their hands are just as deadly. Therefore, after we land on the island, the first thing we need to do is to stabilize our position, and then prepare for street fighting. We must not be soft-handed in street fighting. If we need to demolish buildings, we should use artillery to clean the ground. Wash the floor. If there is any kindness, it will become a tug of war like Russia, which is extremely detrimental to our army. In street fighting, we should use more weapons such as drones, unmanned infantry fighting vehicles, flying grenades, and small drones, which can reduce the casualties of our army in street fighting. In addition, the water supply and energy supply of a besieged city must be cut off. Only in this way can the morale of the opponent be disintegrated. If you fight timidly, you will suffer a big loss. There is also the issue of supply. Regardless of the development of human military technology, logistics is the key to victory in war. If the People's Liberation Army wants to attack Taiwan Island, the most important thing is to ensure the smoothness of the sea routes. This requires the East China Sea Fleet and the South China Sea Fleet to be dispatched at the same time. While blocking the Taiwan Strait, it is also necessary to prevent the intervention of the US and Japanese fleets. Only in this way can our only transport ships can continuously deliver combat materials to Taiwan Island. The last one is a publicity issue. The Russo-Ukrainian war has inspired us that confrontation is not only on the battlefield, it also extends to the internet. Cognitive warfare and public opinion warfare are also difficult problems for us, especially when the United States controls the hegemony of public opinion in the world. How should we deal with it? If the Taiwan army wants to fight us in street fighting, we must not only send soldiers to attack the fortifications, but also send a large number of propagandists to mobilize the local masses. They are not required to use small carts to deliver supplies to the PLA like the branch workers during the Huihei campaign, but at least to resolve the hostility and fear of Taiwanese people. Liberating Taiwan is also a people's war. Most people in Taiwan want peace, and only a small number of people are willing to serve as lackeys of imperialism. It is not allowed to laugh at fellow villagers talking locomotives, and it is not allowed to pick fellow villagers' pineapples. The 3 major disciplines and 8 points of attention must still be adhered to. Liberating Taiwan is not only a unification war, but also a people's war, which requires the joint participation of people on both sides of the strait. The best tool for public opinion now is the internet. The previous method of carrying paint buckets and brushing slogans has long been outdated. Therefore, after the People's Liberation Army landed on Taiwan Island, we must cut off the island's internet, and then let Taiwan Island when using the internet in the mainland. Websites like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube must be kept out of the wall. Only in this way can our army do better political propaganda. It is very important for us to block the destruction of the enemy's high ideology. Many people will ignore this point and think that war is just fighting with planes and cannons. This concept is extremely outdated. Recently, the United States has colluded with forces on the island in an attempt to resist China's reunification by force. Facing the move of the U.S. military to deploy missiles in Taiwan, the Chinese Ministry of National Defense has already announced continuous training and preparation. However, why has the Chinese military not taken any action? Russian President Vladimir Putin has long understood the wisdom of this. Russian President Vladimir Putin clearly pointed out that China does not need to use force to achieve the goal of cross-strait reunification. In other words, Putin believes that China can use its own soft power to resolve cross-strait issues peacefully. This view shows China's own strength from the side, and it just fits China's policies. What we need to know is that the United States has been provoking and suppressing China, and once a war breaks out in the Taiwan Strait, the U.S. military is likely to intervene directly. In addition to the United States, Asia-Pacific countries such as Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines may also participate under the instigation of the White House. If there is a conflict, China will need to deal with the Taiwan military, the U.S. military, and the combined forces of Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines at the same time, which is not good for China. In addition, the 2 sides of the strait are connected in one vein, and we don't want to see the 2 sides go to the point of fighting each other. Based on the above reasons, we do not want the 2 sides of the strait to reach the point of military confrontation, so we have always advocated solving the problem through peaceful means and realizing the reunification of the 2 sides of the strait. Of course, judging from the current situation, the mainland does not expect the Taiwan authorities to take the initiative to ease cross-strait relations and promote reunification. Therefore, some analysts believe that the mainland is gradually adopting the Port Taiwan strategy, step by step, and finally achieve the goal of peaceful reunification. The core of this strategy is to exert economic and political pressure to make the Taiwan authorities realize that the island's economic development path and the foundation of social and people's livelihood cannot do without the support and cooperation of the mainland. We have already initiated a series of measures to facilitate this process. For example, the mainland recently announced an investigation into Taiwan's trade barriers. This can be said to be an important step in this direction. We hope that the Taiwan authorities will realize that it is not feasible to confront the mainland. There are suggestions that since Taiwan's economic development depends on economic and trade exchanges and cooperation with the mainland, we may consider stopping the Cross-Strait Economic Cooperation Framework Agreement, ECFA, with Taiwan to promote the development and growth of the unified forces on the island, thereby achieving the goal of opposing independence, to promote unified goals. We believe that the peaceful reunification of the 2 sides of the Taiwan Strait can eventually be achieved through continuous training and preparations, peaceful resolution of problems, and gradual adoption of measures to advance the reunification process. Our strategy is to achieve cross-strait reunification through soft power. Putin obviously recognizes this and supports our approach. We don't want to get into a military conflict, because it may lead to greater losses and harm to innocent people. We want to strengthen cross-strait relations through economic cooperation, social development, and exchanges between people, and ultimately achieve the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. At present, the U.S. media has publicly reported on the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Forces' preparations for war with China and North Korea, which has aroused widespread concern. This shows that the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force plays an important role in the U.S. military system. With the United States announcing its return to the Asia-Pacific policy, measures to support Japan's arms expansion have gradually strengthened. The Japanese government is actively exaggerating the so-called China threat, and plans to establish a new military force to strengthen its combat readiness against China. Among them, aircraft carrier transformation and fighter aircraft deployment plans have attracted much attention. Japan has stepped up the construction and expansion of its military power, including the transformation of aircraft carriers and the introduction of advanced fighter jets. The aircraft carrier transformation plan aims to enhance the ocean-going combat capability of the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force and equip it with American F-35B fighter jets. These measures all show Japan's awareness of and preparations for potential conflicts with China in the maritime domain. In the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the competition between the two sides' war potential has become the key. Ukraine relies on military aid from the United States and the West, but has depleted its ammunition arsenal in the war. Underscoring the heavy reliance on ammunition supplies, Ukraine reportedly consumed as much ammunition as the United States produced in a month in just 2 days. Similarly, when China is at war with Japan, it needs to quickly paralyze Japan's military potential and prevent the United States and the West from providing military assistance to Japan. China can use the penetration capability of hypersonic missiles to quickly strike Japan's sensitive and high-value targets and destroy its early warning radar and anti-missile systems. Subsequently, China can conduct large-scale strikes against enemy targets with lower-cost subsonic and supersonic missiles. China is strengthening the research and development and deployment of missile technology, using the advantages of hypersonic missiles to break through the opponent's defense system. This will pose a huge threat to Japan. Japan has also accelerated the development of missiles, including extended-range anti-ship missiles and hypersonic missiles, and purchased a large number of cruise missiles from the United States. However, Japan has a clear disadvantage compared with China in terms of missile offensive. Japan is small, lacks strategic depth, and has little defensive advantage over China's missile forces. This makes Japan look powerless in the face of Chinese missile attacks. In the Sino-Japanese War, paralyzing the other side's war potential will be the key. China's ability to penetrate defenses using hypersonic missiles, and Japan's attempt to accelerate the development of missiles, make the missile offensive of both sides a key element of strategic victory. Whoever can effectively paralyze the other side's military potential will be able to gain an advantage in this war. In addition, China is also preparing to open up a second battlefield in the Ryukyu Islands. The Ryukyu Islands have an important strategic position in the Sino-Japanese War, and the United States has established a military base here to safeguard its own interests in East Asia. The Ryukyu Islands are also seen as a key part of the U.S. blockade of China's first island chain. However, the rise of China has drawn international attention to the Ryukyu issue. China has successfully drawn international attention to the hazards faced by local Ryukyu residents. This led to strong opposition from the local residents of Ryukyu, including opposition to security documents, opposition to military use of Okinawa Airport and harbors, and opposition to missile deployment. This shows that once a war breaks out, the Ryukyu Islands may become a battlefield, causing great harm to the local residents. China has expanded its influence on the surrounding areas by drawing the attention of the international community to the Ryukyu issue. Their actions mean that China has opened up a second battlefield, which not only poses a geopolitical threat to Japan, but also puts Japan in a passive position in international public opinion. This heightened strategic pressure on Japan and further highlighted their vulnerability. To sum up, the war between China and Japan has become inevitable. At this critical moment, Russia's reminder is particularly important. It reminds us that the paralysis of war potential is the key factor in determining the outcome of a war. Both sides face challenges and pressures, however, China seems to have certain advantages in some aspects. This war will have a profound impact on the entire region, and the international community needs to pay close attention to it and seek a peaceful solution.